The Old Testament, one of the most influential texts in human history. It's been revered, studied, and debated for centuries. But what if I told you that some of its most famous stories might not be as original as you think? Today, we're diving into the fascinating parallels between the Old Testament and myths from other ancient civilizations. Buckle up. This is going to blow your mind. Let's start with the creation story. In Genesis, we're told about God creating the world in 6 days and resting on the seventh. But did you know that the Sumerians had a creation myth long before this? The Enuma Elish, a Babylonian epic, describes the god Marduk defeating chaos and shaping the world from its remains. Sound familiar? Even the concept of humanity being created from divine intervention mirrors the Sumerian myth of humans being made from clay and the blood of a sacrificed god. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe it's cultural borrowing. Now, the Great Flood. It's one of the most famous stories in the Bible: Noah, the Ark, the animals. But wait, let's rewind to ancient Mesopotamia. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, we meet Utnapishtim, a man chosen by the gods to survive a massive flood. He builds a boat, saves animals, and starts a new life after the waters recede. The similarities are uncanny. Scholars believe the Mesopotamian flood myth heavily influenced the biblical account, especially since these civilizations lived in close proximity. Next, let's talk about the 10 Commandments. These divine laws, given to Moses on Mount Sinai, are a cornerstone of Judeo-Christian ethics. But did you know that ancient Egypt had its own moral code? The Book of the Dead contains declarations like, "I have not killed," "I have not stolen." Some even claim the commandments were inspired by the 42 negative confessions of Maat, the Egyptian goddess of truth and order. Whether borrowed or coincidental, the resemblance is striking. The story of Adam and Eve, the serpent, and the forbidden fruit is iconic. But scholars point to Zoroastrianism, an ancient Persian religion, as a potential influence. Zoroastrian texts describe a primordial paradise where evil, in the form of a serpent, corrupts the first humans. The concept of dualism, good versus evil, was central to Zoroastrianism and seems to echo through the Genesis narrative. Could the Garden of Eden be a retelling of an even older story? Finally, the Tower of Babel. According to the Bible, humans tried to build a tower to reach the heavens, but God stopped them by confusing their language. Interestingly, Mesopotamia was home to ziggurats, massive step pyramids that reached skyward. One ziggurat, the Etam Enki, was dedicated to Marduk and stood in Babylon, where the story of Babel originates. Could this biblical tale be a symbolic reinterpretation of Babylonian culture? The story of Abraham's near sacrifice of Isaac is both chilling and profound. But did you know that human sacrifice was a common theme in ancient religious practices? In Canaanite religion, child sacrifice to deities like Moloch was a ritual for seeking divine favor. Abraham's story may have symbolized a shift from such rituals, emphasizing obedience to God while ultimately rejecting human sacrifice. Let's look at Moses' origin. The baby placed in a basket and set afloat on a river sounds unique, but an older tale tells of Sargon of Akkad, an ancient Mesopotamian ruler. Legend says his mother placed him in a basket sealed with bitumen and set him adrift in the Euphrates. Coincidence? Or another example of cultural storytelling overlap? The burning bush, where God speaks to Moses, is an iconic moment. However, ancient cultures often described divine encounters through natural phenomena. Oracles in Greece and Egypt used sacred fires and visions to convey messages from the gods. Could the burning bush be another version of divine communication? The Exodus, where Moses leads the Israelites out of Egypt, is unparalleled in drama. But Egyptian records describe the Hyksos, a Semitic people, being expelled from Egypt in the 16th century BCE. Could the Exodus story have been inspired by this historical event? The 10 plagues of Egypt may have been divine signs to the Israelites, but some scholars suggest they're symbolic attacks on Egyptian gods. For instance, the Nile turning to blood could represent a challenge to Hapi, the god of the Nile. Each plague might have dismantled the power of Egyptian deities in the eyes of the Israelites. The covenant between God and the Israelites resembles ancient treaties between kings and their vassals. These treaties included promises of protection in exchange for loyalty. The Ten Commandments could be seen as a divine version of such agreements. David defeating Goliath isn't just a tale of triumph, it fits the universal heroic archetype. Ancient cultures from Greece to India feature underdog heroes overcoming monstrous foes. The story's enduring appeal lies in its connection to this timeless narrative. Samson, with his superhuman strength, mirrors the legendary Hercules of Greek mythology. Both heroes' power was divinely gifted and tied to specific rituals. Hercules had labors, Samson had his uncut hair. Could Samson's story be the Hebrew adaptation of a well-known hero type? Job's story of suffering and faith parallels earlier texts like the Sumerian poem Man and His God. These works explore divine justice and human endurance, making Job part of a broader tradition addressing life's hardest questions. The Ark of the Covenant, carrying God's presence, resembles Egyptian sacred chests used to house divine artifacts. The design and function may have drawn from Egyptian religious practices. The concept of angels as divine messengers aligns with Mesopotamian winged spirits like Lamassu, who protected temples and carried messages from the gods. The imagery and role seem to transcend cultures. Prophets in the Old Testament delivering divine messages mirror oracle traditions in Greece, Rome, and Egypt. These figures acted as intermediaries between humans and the divine, emphasizing the universal human quest for guidance. The poetic beauty of the Psalms isn't unique. Sumerian hymns, written thousands of years earlier, praise their gods in similar lyrical styles. Could the Psalms reflect this shared tradition of spiritual expression? Proverbs shares striking similarities with Egyptian wisdom texts, like the instructions of Amenemope. Both offer practical guidance on morality and life, suggesting a shared pool of ancient knowledge. The Old Testament's prophecies of a coming Messiah resonate with Zoroastrian beliefs in a Saoshyant, a savior figure who would bring salvation. These parallels hint at cross-cultural influences shaping humanity's hopes for redemption. The story of the fall of Jericho, with its walls collapsing after the Israelites marched around them, is awe-inspiring. But similar tales of miraculous military victories exist in ancient cultures. In Mesopotamian records, divine intervention in battles was often credited to gods who fought for their chosen people. Could Jericho's collapse be a reflection of divine siege narratives prevalent in the region? The rituals in the Old Testament, like Abraham's covenant ceremony involving animals, parallel ancient Near Eastern practices. In Mesopotamian and Hittite cultures, oaths were sealed with elaborate rituals involving animal sacrifices. These acts underscored the seriousness of divine agreements. The period of Judges, where leaders like Deborah and Gideon rose to guide the Israelites, is not unique. Similar figures existed in other tribal societies, acting as intermediaries between the divine and their people. These leaders often appeared in times of crisis, ensuring the survival of their communities. Solomon's temple was the center of Israelite worship, but its architectural concept may have been influenced by ziggurats in Mesopotamia. Both structures symbolized a connection between heaven and earth, serving as a meeting place for the divine and the human. The serpent in the Garden of Eden has become a universal symbol of deceit. But snakes also appear in ancient myths as figures of wisdom and chaos. From Egyptian depictions of Apep, the chaos serpent, to the Greek Ouroboros, the serpent's symbolism transcends cultures. Ecclesiastes famously declares, "There is nothing new under the sun." This existential reflection has echoes in older texts, like the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh and Egyptian laments, which explore the fleeting nature of life and the pursuit of meaning. Joseph's rise to power in Egypt, interpreting Pharaoh's dreams, bears a resemblance to Egyptian tales of wise advisors. The tale of Sinuhe for instance, tells of a foreigner who gains favor in Egypt through his intelligence and loyalty. The Leviathan, a sea monster described in Job and Psalms, has parallels in ancient myths. The Babylonian Enuma Elish features Tiamat, a chaos sea dragon defeated by Marduk. These stories often symbolize the triumph of order over chaos. The concept of a final judgment, where humanity is held accountable, is central to the Bible. Zoroastrian texts also describe an end-time judgment where good triumphs over evil. These shared ideas highlight humanity's universal hope for justice. After the flood, God's covenant with Noah, symbolized by a rainbow, signifies renewal. Many cultures, like the Polynesians and Native Americans, have flood myths with similar themes of divine restoration and a promise of peace. The angels who brought destruction, such as those in Sodom and Gomorrah, resemble destructive spirits in Mesopotamian and Egyptian lore. These figures often served as agents of divine wrath, ensuring moral order. The Old Testament's strict monotheism may have been influenced by Pharaoh Akhenaten's worship of Aten. Akhenaten attempted to establish a singular deity, a revolutionary idea that may have left echoes in the region's religious evolution. Solomon's wisdom, celebrated in the Bible, aligns with traditions of wisdom literature found in Mesopotamian texts. These collections of proverbs and advice were intended to guide rulers and common people alike. The Old Testament mentions a divine council, a gathering of heavenly beings. This idea has parallels in Mesopotamian and Canaanite myths, where gods convened to discuss and decree the fate of humanity. Jonah's time in the belly of the fish echoes myths of descent into the underworld, such as Orpheus in Greek mythology. These stories often represent a journey of transformation and redemption. The Psalms celebrating God's creation align with hymns in other ancient cultures that praise cosmic order, such as those found in the Rig Veda of ancient India. Women like Deborah, Ruth, and Esther play pivotal roles in the Bible. Similar narratives of strong female figures appear in ancient cultures, emphasizing the universal respect for feminine wisdom and leadership. The Old Testament's promise of a savior mirrors similar hopes in other cultures. For instance, Hinduism speaks of Kalki, the final avatar who will bring balance to the world. The Bible's themes of divine punishment and reward, such as Sodom's destruction and Job's restoration, are mirrored in myths worldwide, showcasing the human desire for justice. Jerusalem, as a city of eternal significance, reflects humanity's longing for a sacred space. Similar ideas appear in other cultures, like Mount Olympus in Greek mythology, as places where the divine intersects with the human. The Tower of Babel is a story of humanity's attempt to reach the heavens, thwarted by divine intervention. It mirrors the construction of Mesopotamian ziggurats, which symbolized a connection between earth and the divine. See, the creation of Eve from Adam's rib is a story that underscores unity and interdependence. Similarly, ancient myths like the Greek tale of Pandora and Sumerian legends about Ninhursag involve the creation of women who shape humanity's destiny. Levitical priests in the Old Testament served as intermediaries between God and the people, a role mirrored by priesthoods in Mesopotamia and Egypt. These figures performed rituals, offered sacrifices, and maintained spiritual order, illustrating a shared need for divine mediation. Would this tale reflect concerns about human ambition in the shadow of these monumental structures? The Psalms, celebrating the majesty of creation, find parallels in hymns from India's Rig Veda and Egypt's hymn to Aten. These songs reflect humanity's universal awe at the natural world and its divine origins. The Ark's journey across the wilderness is iconic, but similar stories of sacred objects in transit appear in other cultures. For instance, the Greeks transported sacred relics in processions, emphasizing divine protection and presence. Prophets like Isaiah, who had vivid visions, resemble seers in ancient cultures. These figures often entered altered states to gain insight or relay divine messages, bridging the mortal and immortal realms. Elijah's dramatic confrontation on Mount Carmel, where fire descends from heaven, has echoes in myths of fire-wielding deities. Such moments symbolize divine power and the triumph of faith over doubt. Canaan, described as a land flowing with milk and honey, evokes imagery of abundance. This parallels fertility myths like those of the Egyptian god Osiris, who symbolized agricultural prosperity and renewal. The Israelites' 40-year journey through the wilderness mirrors the spiritual significance of pilgrimages in other cultures, such as the Hindu pilgrimage to the Ganges or the Greek journey to Delphi. These treks represent physical and spiritual transformation. Joseph's betrayal by his brothers resonates with stories of familial treachery in other myths. In Greek lore, Cronus betrays his father Uranus, and later Zeus overthrows Cronus, reflecting cycles of conflict and redemption. The Ten Commandments represent divine law for humanity, akin to Hammurabi's code in Babylon. Both establish morale and social guidelines, underscoring a shared human pursuit of justice and order. Prophecies in the Bible, such as those about the Messiah, echo a universal fascination with destiny. Greek oracles and Roman augurs also sought to decipher the divine plan, showcasing humanity's desire to understand the future. The Sabbath, a day of rest, has parallels in ancient traditions like the Babylonian concept of a 7-day week. This rhythm reflects humanity's need for work-life balance, rooted in spiritual practices. Dreams in the Bible, like those interpreted by Joseph, often carry divine messages. Similar traditions exist in Mesopotamia and Egypt, where dreams were seen as portals to divine wisdom. Covenant renewal ceremonies in the Bible reflect broader traditions of sacred rites. These events, like the Akitu festival in Babylon, reaffirmed bonds between deities and their followers. The Bible often portrays Yahweh as a divine warrior, leading battles. This image aligns with figures like Marduk in Babylonian myths, who fought chaos to establish order, highlighting shared motifs of divine strength. The menorah, representing an eternal flame, echoes the sacred fires of Zoroastrianism. These symbols of divine presence and purity transcend cultural boundaries. The Song of the Sea, celebrating Israel's escape from Egypt, resonates with other victory hymns like the Sumerian lament for Ur. These songs memorialize triumphs and divine intervention. The Tree of Life in Genesis has counterparts in global myths like Yggdrasil in Norse mythology and the Bodhi tree in Buddhism. These trees symbolize life, knowledge, and divine connection. The Messianic banquet, a symbol of ultimate fulfillment, reflects feasting traditions like the Norse Valhalla or the Hindu celestial feast of the gods. Such imagery represents unity, abundance, and divine communion. The Old Testament describes kings like David as chosen by God, reflecting the concept of divine kingship. In Mesopotamia, rulers like Gilgamesh were seen as part divine, acting as intermediaries between gods and their people. This reinforces a universal belief in divinely sanctioned leadership. The 10 plagues that struck Egypt are dramatic displays of divine power. Similar stories of cosmic disasters, such as the Sumerian tale of pestilence and famine sent by the gods, demonstrate shared narratives about divine punishment to enforce justice. Ezekiel's symbolic acts, like lying on his side for 390 days, mirror rituals performed by shamans and prophets in other cultures. These acts often conveyed complex spiritual messages, emphasizing the connection between the physical and divine realms. The Ten Commandments reflect a universal quest for morality, paralleling Hammurabi's code in Egyptian Mayat. These laws transcend culture, advocating for justice, fairness, and respect for others. Animal sacrifices in the Old Testament were central to worship, symbolizing atonement and devotion. Similarly, in Greek, Mesopotamian, and Hindu traditions, sacrifices served as offerings to maintain cosmic order and seek divine favor. The burning bush encountered by Moses symbolizes divine revelation. Sacred trees, like the oak of Dodona in Greek myths or the world tree in Norse mythology, also represent divine presence and wisdom. Angels in the Bible act as messengers and protectors, much like the winged figures found in Assyrian reliefs and Zoroastrian depictions of Fravashi. These beings symbolize guidance and the divine connection to humanity. The Psalms, used in worship and praise, echo the use of sacred songs in Egyptian and Sumerian rituals. Music and poetry have long been universal tools to honor the divine and express spiritual devotion. The divine covenants in the Old Testament, like Noah's and Abraham's, resemble treaties in Mesopotamian culture. These agreements often involve both blessings and responsibilities, emphasizing mutual commitment between the divine and humanity. Water, as a symbol of chaos and salvation, appears in many cultures. The parting of the Red Sea mirrors tales like the Babylonian flood myth, where water represents both destruction and divine control. The tabernacle, a portable dwelling for God, parallels sacred shrines in other cultures. Welcome to Blessovia Science TV, where we take you on an exhilarating journey through the cosmos and unravel the mysteries of science. We are excited to offer you the opportunity to become a valued member of our ever-growing community of cosmic enthusiasts and knowledge seekers. Exclusive access to cosmic content. As a member of Blessovia Science TV, you will gain exclusive access to a treasure trove of cosmic content, including documentaries, interviews with leading scientists, space missions updates, and awe-inspiring visualizations of the universe, live Q, and sessions with experts. Your membership will grant you the chance to participate in live Q and sessions with renowned scientists, astronomers, and space explorers. Get your burning questions answered by those who push the boundaries of human knowledge. Embark on a journey that spans the cosmos and join us in unraveling the secrets of the universe. Become a Blessovia Science TV member today, and together we will reach for the stars. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and share. Don't forget to leave your comment.